some hope to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Blessed and happy to be with you as always. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of this community. Tonight, August 7th, is episode number 227, which I affectionately called, Are You Afraid? Faith and Well-Being. We're going to start out tonight talking a little bit about this past Tuesday night's podcast where we had on a leader of the Somali community, Mohamed Amin. I did not know Mohamed. I'd met him 2 times just briefly over the last couple of years. We talked by telephone several times. And then Omar Fatah got the endorsement of the Democrat Party to run for mayor in Minneapolis, which means he probably could win. And I thought, boy, what's going on in this community? Because I watch on X Republicans mostly, and a lot of them Republican Party officers, and they talk to me also, and they speak to me with a great deal of Islamophobia. And as an American-born Jew who's had the good fortune to find Christ, I have a ecumenical experience. I've spent a lot of time thinking about immigration and discrimination. I've been the victim of it myself. And every time I see the discrimination against people of the Islamic faith, I understand that sometimes it's justified, but most of the time it's not. When my forebears came to the country in the 1930s, just to escape Nazism, they came here as just as other as the Islamic Muslim immigrants are today. Here in Minneapolis, the Jews that came to these twin cities were put into ghettos. They were denied employment. Their doctors could not practice in the hospitals. That's why there is Jewish hospitals. They didn't want to have Jewish hospitals. Jewish doctors weren't allowed to practice in the traditional medical settings that were here in the community. People couldn't get jobs. What happens when they can't get jobs? They became criminals, bootleggers, gangsters. There was a lot of violence. There was a very strong American Nazi movement here in the Twin Cities, particularly in Minneapolis, which we've covered on the podcast. That battle between anti-Semites and the Jews of Minneapolis and St. Paul was ongoing when I was a young man in my 20s, and people were still going out and beating each other with clubs and throwing bricks at each other. Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
You didn't know that were you doing the production when we covered that? We talked about that.
Yeah.
And this is something that now these people have come here to the country, and there is Islamic fundamentalism and Islamic extremism, just as there's Jewish extremism, which we're witnessing, just as there is other kinds of extremism, which I'm going to say there's evangelical extremism, there is Catholic extremism. All of these Abrahamic religions, which we call religions because, it's the domain, how you define something is one way to control it. They're political movements. Let's stop calling them religions, okay? Because they function just like political movements. They have a belief system and they're looking for more participants. And they're raising money and they're looking for volunteers. And a lot of people devote a lot of their free time for no compensation to their religious organization because they have belief in what it's doing. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, religious, political, just these are just words. These are organizations that are seeking to grow. Now, Judaism was a warrior religion. Just read the Old Testament. If you haven't read the Old Testament, take a couple of months and go through it, and you're going to find out that this thing with the Israelites, these people were at war all the time. All the time. Somewhere along the way, which we're not going to take the time to go into the history of it, that political movement, that religious movement was defeated. Obviously, it's a political movement because it had kings. We even have a book in the Bible called Kings, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they know that this line in here, defining these domains, religion, politics, that's very convenient. It's not that simple. The Jews were defeated. The Israelites were defeated. They were defeated. They went into exile called the diaspora. In exile, they were no longer a warrior religion or a warrior political religious movement. They had been defeated. Survival became the watchword of the Jewish people. Survival. Not spreading the faith, not spreading the religion, not spreading the politics of the Israelite. No, just surviving in foreign countries because they've been expelled out of their own country. And we see the outgrowth of that every day on the news where we're at today. Christianity was a warrior religion. Do we remember the Crusades? Remember those chain link armor costumes, and there was a big red cross on the front of it? Right. That was their army fatigues. Big old cross. Could you imagine the U.S. military going out into combat wearing big crosses? Right? But that's what it was. And through a series of events over a long period of time, Christianity was reformed. It was no longer a warrior religion. It became reformed. The idea of a Jesus Christ that was all love all the time permeated that religious movement, that philosophical movement, that political movement. It changed its strategy. It no longer armed itself to fight against its competitors. Now, Islam is still a warrior political movement. And let's ask ourselves why. And we talked about it on that podcast with Mohammed. The European colonial powers conquered and took over the entire region where Islam was at home. And I'm sure, and I know, that Islam was at war, within itself. There, it's a tribal culture. But what the colonial powers did is arm these different factions with modern weapons, drew borders to create division, and then put these people to work killing each other so they could rob everything that wasn't tied down. Man, they took the stuff that was tied down. And, this wounds a culture. It wounds it in a way that the Chinese are wounded. It wounds it in the way that we, the people here in this country, have been wounded. And we don't really even understand the wound we carry from empire. So, is there something to be afraid of in Islam or Judaism or in Christianity? Yes. Our own government under the Biden administration, under the left, AOC, Ilhan Omar, they've been saying that the most dangerous element in the society is not Islam, it's white Christian males. So this thing is bouncing around amongst all of these groups: extremism, moderation, reform. Extremism is born not necessarily within the religion itself, but through oppression. Oppression of the Jews in Egypt created the warrior culture of the Israelite. Slavery, exploitation. So, here's where we are in the world today. Let's just double down on exploitation and see if it works out. This is where we're at in consciousness right now as a human species. These problems aren't solvable. We can't solve this with love. Love your neighbor as you wish to be loved isn't going to work. We're going to have to double down on oppression and racism and discrimination to protect ourselves from the other. And that's why I had Mohammed on, because Mohammed tried to say, and there's going to be people that were saying he's lying, he's a saboteur, he's a spy, whatever. I mean, I got the feedback, and I'm not inside his head. I'm not going to vouch for him. I don't know him that well. But I tend to take people at their word until they prove me different. I'm going to go out to brunch with them soon, try to understand him better. I thought he was super articulate, and he was American. American. What he said was faith, country, culture. Now, something that did come up I found interesting, very interesting, is they want to have their own schools in the Somali community. And they're not talking about, secular schools. They want to have Islamic schools. But hey, I went to Hebrew school. Did any of you go to Catholic school? Do we not have a homeschool, private school movement here in this country? And if it's good for Christians to have Christian schools, how can we deny Islamic schools? Oh, this brought up some very interesting issues. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to come back to this next week, I'm a strong proponent of fixing the public schools. Muhammad said, nah, we want a divorce. I don't agree with Muhammad on that. My father wanted me to go to public school. My grandfather offered to pay to send me to a yeshiva. I don't know if you all know what that means. My grandfather, who was religious to the bone, prayed 3 times a day, wore the skull cap, put on tefillin every day, spoke in Yiddish, and he didn't have a lot of money, but he had more than my dad. I will pay and send David to New York to become a rabbi. I'll pay for it. My father said, no, I want him to go to public school. I want him to be an American. That was a positive experience for me. Something has happened to our public schools since the 60s. Something, and I think it needs to be restored because the great melting pot that was our public schools has now become the great incubator of identity politics. And that's not an accident. And that's why we got to be involved in politics. Tanner, can you please play this clip from the Mohamed Amin podcast? If Omar Fattah was to win, would that help Republican Party politics in the city if we organized?
Well, Minneapolis is a blue city. Republicans, you want me to be honest?
I want you to tell me what's going on there.
Republicans don't stand a chance based on the fact that we're not organizing.
But if we organized in the city,
it needs 3 things.
Go ahead.
Volunteers.
Okay, volunteers.
If you can't volunteer, we got the ideas. The people are there. And the third thing that is missing is money.
Volunteers, ideas, and money.
Yeah, the ideas we have. And more importantly, the Republicans we're putting up are carpetbaggers.
Oh, Alex Plekish, get this to Alex Plekish. Get this clip to Alex Plekish and to all the leaders, Tom Emmer, Bobby Benson. Get this clip to them because this is a man who's in the street. And what is this final comment in that clip? The Republicans that are being put up are carpetbaggers. Tanner, does that reference ring a bell for you, carpetbagger?
I thought he meant to say carpet bugger, and I didn't know what it was. What is a
A
carpetbagger?
carpetbagger is a very derogatory term Very derogatory. It's very derogatory. And it refers back to right after the Civil War, when the culture of the South lay in ruins and had to be reconstructed. And Republicans came from the North in mass. And the carpet bag was their suitcase. They didn't have hard suitcases. It was a soft carpet bag where they put their possessions. And these carpetbaggers, Republicans, came into the South, into the cities of the South, not for the benefit of the people of the South, but to take political power for personal gain. To take political power for personal gain. I want everybody in the Republican Party to understand how the Republican Party is viewed amongst the voters, that if we don't get to these voters, we don't win in Minnesota, ever. Mohamed said it's a blue city, that the Republicans that come are carpetbaggers. Carpetbaggers. And here we have a candidate from the city who is known, commonly because of his basketball exploits, smart, articulate, the perfect candidate to build a coalition in the cities. And I have to still put up with the fact that we have people in the party right now today who organized a conspiracy to smear Royce White in the 2024 campaign. And there's a whisper campaign going on right now within the party. And you know why they're doing that? They're doing that because they're afraid of him. They're afraid of him because he's the person that could actually get into those cities and change the hearts and minds of those urban residents. And without those urban residents voting Republican, this state is blue forever. Yeah, we might have 4 uni-party Congress people, but they do not reflect the yearnings of the patriots in this state or the people in those urban communities. And, he said that another part of the podcast, Mohamed said that Republicans won't even have their pictures taken with members of the Somali community, that they're carpetbaggers.
I believe, sorry to correct you on that. I think that he was saying that the only thing that they will do is pose for a picture so they can say they were there.
Great.
Yeah.
Find the clip, put it up. Let's see who's right.
And a few MAGA activists. It is MAGA coming to us. Regular
You think
establishment Republicans,
No way.
they put us at 10 feet. They want to take pictures with us. But our issues is never on the table. And because our issues are not on the table, we look at them and the people we are representing are not stupid.
We're going to find out. It's going to be a memory face-off between
let's see how
Tanner
good my
and
memory is.
David. Great. And also, this is critically important, and get this to Alex. What did Mohamed say? These people, these Somali people, have been in this country for 20 years. They already have a endorsed Democrat candidate for mayor. They're an organized political entity in this state. They're potent. In 20 years. And what did they do? They organized. We don't even go out for caucus. We don't participate in politics. And as long as we keep doing that, as long as we the people, and these are American citizens, they're showing us how to do it. What did Mohamed say? You need volunteers. You need ideas, and you need money. Okay, Republicans, does it really matter if you volunteer in a county that votes 72% Republican? No, Alex, you're a military guy, right? Wasn't that the assertion every time I see you? You're wearing your Top Gun jacket, not Top Gun, but your aviator jacket. If you're military, do you think strategically, or do you just follow orders? Because if you're a leader, get the volunteers into the cities. Get the money into the cities. Organize the precinct strategy in the cities. Clean out these feckless Republican officers who sit around and have tea parties, and let's get some people into the party that really want to change the culture of the Twin Cities. Let's take our state resources and practice the precinct strategy in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And let me tell you, if you're from out of state, how bad it is. In some of these congressional Senate districts, state Senate districts, or state legislative districts here, the Republicans can't even field a candidate. The Democrats get a pass. They don't even have to spend money to elect somebody. It's a freebie. We're not thinking about this in an effort to win. We're thinking about this like losers. And this pisses me off. We have to have a candidate in every district. Here in 45, Alex's home district, they could not field a candidate in 45B for the Minnesota legislature in the 2024 cycle. That's not failure. That's beyond failure. That's disgraceful. That is not acceptable. And don't look at me and tell me I need to run, okay? I don't want to hear that. It's not my job to run. It's your job to recruit the candidates that want to run, to work with them, to get the volunteers. We need money, volunteers, and ideas. Well, we got ideas. We got ideas. We got great candidates for this time, which the party is suppressing. Why are you suppressing it? Tom Emmer, Bobby Benson. Why do you suppress this? Why do you do that? Don't we want to win this state? Don't we want to turn this state red? Or have we given up and just said, it's impossible. We give up. Is that what we're doing here? I know in some sense we are, because I know many candidates in the 2022 and 2024 cycles, when they lost, they left the state, like Kim Crockett, like Paul Hillen. They lost and they abandoned the state. What kind of thing is that to do? Do you really think you can run away from communism? Do you really think the communists aren't coming to Florida or Texas? They're going state after state after state, conquering the state and spreading their influence. And we got a brief reprieve with Donald Trump to get organized. We have to practice the precinct strategy. What are we doing in our local communities? What are you doing? I know what I'm doing. What are we willing to do? And for those of you, and I'm not saying I agree with you, but I'm saying for those of you that view Islam as a foreign conquering force that must be opposed, quit posting on X. That's not helping. Organize your neighborhood if it's that important to you. Go meet with Islamic people. Maybe you're going to find some of them are wearing red, white, and blue T-shirts. And they mean it. Talk to them. Because I'm going to tell you, there's Jewish people in this country that have no allegiance to this country at all, only insofar as it supports Israel. What's the difference? What is the difference? Because they're Jewish? That's not a difference. That's a distinction. It's not really much of a difference. But there's Jewish people like me that believe, I didn't have a choice. Christ appeared in my life, and I love this country, and I love the founding documents, and I'm thoroughly American down to my bone. And I don't want to be hated because I'm Jewish. That's ridiculous. And I don't want to see any Islamic people hated because they're not like me. I only want to hate them if they want to overthrow my country and turn them into a communist hellhole. Then I do hate them. But there's differences in every community. And we have to take the time and trouble to understand those differences and take the time and trouble to organize our neighborhoods. So what we have to do in the Republican Party is we got to focus our volunteers in the districts that are blue. We got to focus our ideas towards the districts that are blue. We got to focus our money in the districts that are blue and convert them. And because we lose this cycle or last cycle, doesn't mean we lose the next cycle. And we got to listen to the voters. We have to understand that politics changes. We got a new politics coming on here. New constituencies are forming. What existed for the last 50 years isn't going to be there for the next 50. And what is the key politics of the day? What do you think I'm going to say? What do you think I'm going to say?
I don't know. I can think of a lot of things.
Well, let me make it clear for you. Thank you for not knowing the answer. The robots are here, okay? There is an unhuman, inhumane technology that is way smarter than we are. And I watched The Terminator and I watched The Matrix, and that's predictive programming. They're telling us, when I say they, art is telling us where we're headed. Unless we, the people, control, we have to have the control. We, the people of faith, have to have control of this technology, or it's going to control us. It's not born of faith, it's born of anti-faith. And we're either going to get this right, we're going to find that Protestants and Catholics and Jews and Muslims and Native Americans, anyone that believes in a spiritual world, if we don't unite, that spiritual world is going to lead us to concentration camps where we will be killed because we are a threat to that godless technology. It's anti-human in the extreme. I am convinced of it, and I think we need a new political constituency to control it. It needs control. I'm not saying it couldn't be for good. It could be for good. It depends who's in control of it. Because pretty soon, it's going to be in control of us. And that would mean if it's not in control of us already. News that matters. This week, the deadline is arriving. President Trump originally said he was going to give Russia, I think, 50 days into September to stop this war. And then he had some conversations with President Putin he didn't like, and he said, I don't want to talk to him anymore. 12-day deadline, which is this week. And President Trump, man, you want to talk about a card player. He's all in on this deal.
Yeah.
I mean, if this doesn't work, we're going to war because he's putting all the chips on the bar to force a stop to the violence in the Ukraine. And there are a lot of people that don't want to see this stop. Just like there's a lot of people that don't want to see the violence in the Middle East stop. Because for a small group of people, this is very beneficial. For all the rest of us, it's awful. Just awful. I'm going to say this again. Do we think, are we so stupid at this point in the year 2025 to believe that more repression is the answer? After thousands of years of repression that led to this, now we're going to double down on repression. It's silly. Trump knows it. And, he's a little bit like Mohammed. We're just business people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Mohammed was talking a lot about that.
We just want to make money.
Yeah.
Can we just do a deal? We don't care how you live. I mean, we played it right on the podcast. Trump went into Saudi Arabia and he addressed all the Islamic leaders. He said, I don't care what you people do in your own house. It's none of my business. Hey, if you want to wear robes by day and dress up by women as night, we don't care. Let's just do business. Keep it to yourself. We just want to do business and make peace. That's it. Money and peace. That's what we're about. That's not a bad idea. I'm not saying it's the perfect idea.
It's better than killing each other.
It's better than killing each other. That's correct. So we're on a 10 or 12-day deadline, which is this week. And it came out just this morning, which you'll be reading today, that a face-to-face meeting with President Trump and President Putin is being arranged right now. It's going to happen very soon. Special Envoy Witkoff was in the Kremlin this week. He had a 3-hour meeting with President Putin. There was even a video of them walking through a park together talking as if they were friends. So I'm going to tell you, they're not going to get together to not succeed. Something is being cooked up here that could be very beneficial. And then there's the other side of it. There are forces in Russia that don't want peace. They have a military-industrial complex. They got a chip on their shoulder. They were attacked by the British in 1805, the French in 1812, the British again in 1853. They were occupied in 1917, included by the Americans. They were attacked by the Germans in 1942. Then the Cold War, then this war. That's their side of the story. I mean, we got a side too. These Russians are not simple. These people are also with an empire. So, but they got a chip on their shoulder, and there's people in Russia that don't want this thing solved. So there's lots of threats going back and forth. The former President Medvedev was very threatening to the United States, threatened President Trump for this deadline, told President Trump that he's risking war not between Ukraine and Russia, but between the United States and Russia. Then our favorite neocon senator, Lindsey Graham, weighed in to the conversation and told Medvedev that they're going to find out real soon that Joe Biden's no longer the president and they better get to the peace table. And the response was, hey, Gramps, go work on America first. I mean, this stuff's this stuff's kind of entertaining. And if it wasn't so serious,
It'll make a good movie in 100 years.
it could make a good movie in 10 years. Quick turnaround time. So this is where we're at today. The two presidents are going to meet. I just looked this morning. A nuclear submarine, Russian nuclear submarine and warships just docked up in Havana, Cuba this morning.
Nice.
A stone's throw from Florida. They're not there for fun. They're there for show. They're letting everybody know that if it's time to get down, nobody's getting out unscathed. And Trump is trying to change this, and Trump is being maligned, and there's reasons to malign him. And, I want to malign him on certain issues, like this AI gap, missile gap, mineshaft gap. We got to be ahead of the Chinese on AI. They're building nuclear power stations all over the country to fuel this AI. Trump is a believer in science. He is. And I think I'm going to cover that next week.
Yeah.
But he's trying to bring about peace. Peace is a rather religious concept. So I don't want to be judgmental because I see the big picture. I'm involved in the international trade. I see how he is manipulating the system in a way that's absolutely unprecedented, not just to make America rich again, but to make people put down their arms. For example, today, is today August 7th? It is.
This is 7th.
Today, the higher reciprocal tariffs are in effect. They're in effect today. I was arguing with one of my suppliers about it by WeChat last night. Arguing. Hey, go bite a hog in the ass. This is a big change. Trump has changed the world. The world is altered in a way that will be permanent now. And the tariffs that are imposed, most of them are not deal killers. Most of the products that you all go down and buy at Walmart and Costco, they're going to go up in price about 16%. Then you put in the factory offsets, the stuff's going to go up 6-8%. Eventually, based on the international forces, it may go up 10 or 15%. It may. So when you buy your tire, do you remember what you paid for your tires last time, young man?
Yeah, it was right underneath 400.
It might cost you 4 years from now when you have to replace those tires, $460.
Yeah.
So over a 4-year period for 4 tires, it's $15 a year out of your budget. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to break you.
No, not the worst, but I'm not happy about it.
But now wait a second. See, now this is where I get a little incensed. We owe $37 trillion. $37 trillion. America has been living high off the hog my entire life. But the last 20 years, the high off the hog part has been because of BS. It's borrowed money. From the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I used to work when I was your age. Like Christmas would come, like the 24th is Christmas Eve. We'd work full out till 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve. I mean, full out. Everybody did. We were doing deals at 2:59 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Then we'd look around, everybody'd have a drink. Merry Christmas, we go home for a day, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now Christmas starts, I don't know, on Thanksgiving. and it lasts till the middle of January. We don't work here anymore. We don't work in this country. I'm going to tell you, in China, these people are busting their asses. Now, the argument could be made, and it's made around my campfire at home. Work. I mean, Mrs. Professor Penn, why do you like to work so much? I don't know. I like to work. That's my culture. I was born in the 50s. I like working. I like creating things. I like getting things done. I like doing things. Well, don't you want to retire? No. First of all, a lot of people I know that retired my age, they're dead in a year.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine myself. Yeah, I'd be good for a week. I could, well, I'll tell you, if I retired what I do, I'd be in the gym 6 hours a day. I'd find something to do. But, come on. What am I going to do? Get back into full contact fighting at 70 years old? That's a little ridiculous, right? So, things change as you get older. I like to work. My country doesn't like to work anymore because we have been financializing our financial success since 2000 and Bush. We're $37 trillion in debt. Now, the tariffs are going to increase the cost of goods. It is not inflation. It's higher prices. There's a difference. Because guess what's going to happen? The price is going to go up and the price is going to go down. Inflation doesn't work that way until there's deflation. Now, what is inflation? The size of the money supply is increasing. Things get more expensive. What is deflation? Bankruptcy, financial failure. The bubble starts to collapse. Those are the things that the people with big money and the Fed are concerned about. They don't care if your tires cost an extra $60 a set. It's not relevant. President Trump is collecting 25% of the value of every tire that you buy, or every margarita ice maker that you buy, or any hard good that you buy that's coming in. There's a tax on it between 19 and 30%. After 30, it's a deal killer. And I'm going to tell you, and going back to what I was talking about, trade is being used to bring about peace. The Indians are buying Russian oil. India. President Trump said, okay, go ahead, buy that Russian oil, but we're not going to do business with you anymore. Your tax is 50%. I buy tires that are manufactured in India, and that is coming to a grinding, screeching halt. Stop. Can't afford it anymore. Sorry, guys. We can't do it. Love you. Won't work. They're going to call their local political people and say, geez, David Penn stopped buying tires from us. 50%, he can't make it work. Now they're creating this is creating political pressure in India. The exporters in India they're going to their local political people going, hey, come on. We got to quit buying that Russian oil. We're going to have to lay off 4,000 people at the tire factory. See, President Trump is doing things nobody thought possible before President Trump. No president has ever done this before. And the courts could remove this authority from him. And what is he doing it for? He's not trying to damage India. He's trying to get the Indians to stop buying Russian oil, so Putin's got to sit down and talk, because those oil sales are what's fueling the Russian military machine. And, the Chinese are looking at it and going, wow, look, we're already at 59%. Man, if he does that to us and makes us 100%, what are we going to do? This is called economic warfare, and it's effective. And he's not doing it from some kind of awful center. He's doing it from a center that says, please stop killing each other. Please stop. I have a lot of respect for this. And if it means that I'm going to pay a little more for something for a period of time while we sort this out in the world and move from guns to butter, because he's trying to defang this military-industrial complex. Boy, that takes some courage, doesn't it? Remember John Kennedy? You remember the four martyrs? The people that were preaching for peace? John Kennedy and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, the father, Robert Kennedy Sr., man, this has not gone on in this country since the 60s. So the tariffs are here. Prices are going to go up. Not the end of the world, because here's what happens when prices go up. Businesses find ways to bring prices down. Because guess what we've all been trained to do? Buy the lowest price, right?
Right.
So when the price goes up, everybody's going to try to figure out how to get that price down because they want a price advantage. So it's not going to last up. It's going to come down. Isn't that cool? 25% every time you buy a tire now, 25% is going against the debt. Anytime you buy anything that's imported, the United States government is collecting money to pay against this deficit and this debt. It had to happen. And I'm watching these people on X, these leftists, talking about prices going up, like stirring the pot, because people that are low propensity, no propensity voters, they don't know. They're just going down to the store and stuff's expensive. And I get that. Cost of living's high right now. But we got to get the word out. If we were volunteering, if we were with ideas, and we were with money and in the city and knocking on doors and holding meetings and talking to those residents and saying to them, hey, guess what? This whole system is going to fall apart if we don't make it financially solvent. And we came up with a program to explain that. We got to explain this. The Republican Party needs to be an educational program, educational. And to that note, I want to say thank you for being here tonight. Professor Penn podcast needs your help. Please call me crazy, need your help. Hebrews needs your help. Free People Radio needs your help. And I'll tell you why. I had a guy come into my X and he said, Professor Penn, you are the most shadow banned account on X. And I thought, wow, I'm simultaneously gratified and horrified. In other words, and probably on X, it's because I'm saying things like, we got to get control of this AI. I don't think Elon Musk's algorithms like hearing that. We don't want that guy to get out there too much because Elon Musk is a purveyor of the New World Order, the technology order. And it was very obvious that when he didn't get what he wanted, there was a rift. And now we're not hearing too much about Elon Musk.
Yeah, I don't hear much about him
Disappeared,
anymore.
right? Because he's going to go back to doing what he's doing. Okay, unfettered technology has been dangerous since the nuclear bomb. We have been living in this scientific, technocratic, godless, faithless, moralist world since 1945. It's only accelerating in its technic. It's accelerating. We're not in control of it. You and me, we the people, the regular people, what my friend Dave Kylo calls the mud people, we're not in control of this. We've got to band together. So we do that through the precinct strategy is one way to do it, one tactic. These podcasts are another. The Republican Party needs to be an educational organization. We have to educate before we try to proselytize. We have to educate before we convert. This is an educational program. At least I try to make it educational. And I get the feedback in the live chat and in the comments that it is very educational for some people. I'm sure some people watch it and think I'm stupid. Okay, that's great. And they're welcome to start a podcast. And if they have so much to say and they know so much more than me, I'd love to attend their podcast. I learn from podcasts too. But we need to educate, and we're being suppressed. So it will be through your efforts to repost these links into all of your socials, on your Facebook, on your X, wherever you have a social media account. Please bring people to the podcast. I really want to grow the community because, this is political for me. I would like to see Minnesota ensue and abide in republicanism, not the Republican Party necessarily, because it might be irretrievable here in Minnesota. But the values of the philosophy of republicanism, those are soaring philosophical ideas that are so closely aligned with the religious tradition that I can't personally even tell it apart. So we want to educate. So I'm asking you, please, if you like the content, please subscribe. Please click the like button. Please leave comments. But most importantly, please repost the link to this podcast. And every time, if you're watching on Royce's X right now, thank you. I know you love Royce. Please repost the link into your X channel so that we can spread this. And every time you're listening to Royce, repost his link because we're being controlled. Because what we're doing is searching for truth. And the search for truth is what's going to get us out of this mess that we are in a mess. So what's going to get us out is when more and more citizens say, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to get to my local Republican Party. I'm going to join my local committee, and I'm going to work to restore republicanism in my neighborhood, in my congressional district, in my state, throughout this whole country. We're in a fourth turning. We don't know how this is going to turn out. And the resignation is, the apathy is so omnipresent. There's nothing I can do about it. Man, and you wonder, we're going to get this to the end about faith and well-being, and people wonder why they're sick, and we're going to blame cigarettes for it. Good. Take the bait.
Another thing, real quick, I kind of want to add just to help show that we really need to educate people back on what republicanism truly is. I was just in Illinois and I went and visited Abraham Lincoln's tomb, and they had a
Wow. Did
little.
you take pictures?
I did, not too many. I usually when I do those things, I like to be present and just
Okay.
appreciate.
Okay.
But I went to the gift shop, and Abraham Lincoln is my favorite president. I wanted to look more into him. And it's so hard because there are no autobiographies. Really did not write about himself too much. So it's all just other people's writing. So then their biases come in. And I picked up probably four different like biographies of him. And it just said, it like talked by the second sentence, it would say, Abraham Lincoln protecting democracy. And it was that democracy, democracy, democracy. And never once did it ever mention republicanism. And that made me so upset because I was like, this is the first Republican president out of anybody. He understood what republicanism was.
He started the party.
He started the party.
Right.
Like, and now it's the second biggest party in the United States politics. Why is that not celebrated? So even down to like the books that they are releasing about these presidents, they're completely missing the point. So we
Mm-mm.
really need to educate people.
Stop, young man. They're not missing the
They're getting
point.
their point. I know.
That's correct. They're advancing because words are things. They're powerful. Bruce Lee said, be careful what you say about yourself because the word spelling is about spell, a magic spell.
Yeah.
That's where the word spelling comes from. So you cast spells on each other with what we say. Thoughts are things, words are things. They're powerful. Like we got a religion and we got politics and we don't mix them. That is a lie meant to weaken us so that people of strength can control us. No, what's going to save humanity is when people of faith put down their internal hatred and their hatreds of other people. You know, Protestants hate the Catholics. The Protestants and the Catholics hate the Jews. The Jews, the Protestants, the Catholics hate the Muslims. I mean, as long as we continue, everybody hates the Native Americans. The Native Americans, everybody hates them. You know, as long as we do this like this, as long as we let these hatreds divide us, this is no different than what the British did and the French did in Africa and in the Middle East. And we think, oh no, this happened naturally. No, it didn't happen naturally. Just like in that book, the second line, Abraham Lincoln saved the democracy.
Yeah.
No, he saved the republic. And this is what we have to get hip to is the power of these words, these categories, these domains. They control our thinking. We got to get out of the L7, right? The L7, the box that we're in. Who made that box for us? I didn't make it. I found myself in it. And from the time I've been a little kid, I've been trying to get out of it. I saw an interesting meme on X. I don't think I can quote it exactly, but it's about the system. You know, it's about escaping this system. We have to escape the system and set up our own systems, both individually and collectively. The system is there. That matrix, it's there. But when we don't participate in it, it's an empty shell. Or as Royce would say, fuck these people. This political use of economics, the two big noteworthy events of this today is that India is 50% because of their purchases of Russian oil and the unwillingness of the Indian government to open its markets to American agriculture products. 50%. We'll see if that brings them around the corner. It might not. India has a long history of being non-aligned, and if it had an alignment, it's probably closer to the Russians than it is to the United States. The hope is because India and China are also competitors that President Trump is trying to peel off India from the BRICS. The other big loser was Brazil. That's also 50%. And why is Brazil 50%? Well, that's very personal for President Trump. There is a Trump-like politician in Brazil, Bolsonaro. Do you know that name?
I feel like I can see his face, but I don't know the name.
Bolsonaro was a reformer, a Republican in Brazil. He was president, then he was defeated by Lula. The circumstances of that election are as murky as the 2020 election here. There was a citizens' revolt where the Congress in Brazil was stormed, no different than January 6th. You wonder, man, how did that happen? If you look at the films of it, write this down. We should play the films of that. It looks just like January 6th. How could those two events happen? They're so exactly alike, they're interchangeable. Makes me wonder inside my L7 box, how is that possible? Anyhow, Bolsonaro's under house arrest, and he's being prevented from ever running for president again. He lost the last election by a hair. President Trump is using all of his powers to break the hold of the communists. Lula is a communist on Brazil, the largest and most important country in South America. Also, just on a sidebar, in this duty tariff transition, President Trump has closed the duty-free de minimis loophole. What does that mean? We've all heard now of Temu and Shine, I presume, correct? They've been able to be so much cheaper than our American domiciled countries because they have a business model where they bring their products in less than $800 at a time, avoiding duties and tariffs. So they had a big price advantage.
So they just essentially had just a big load of ships coming over with small, like,
No, they
shipments.
used the U.S. Postal Service.
What do you mean by $800 though? How are they getting
If you were, up until yesterday,
Yeah.
if you shipped a product from China to your house, to your
Oh,
room,
so I'm the direct,
they ship it directly to you using the
Okay.
U.S. Postal Service.
and then that avoids tariffs completely.
Zero.
What?
Zero. It was zero. And that's why they were so low priced.
This makes me just like realize that, and I always knew it was kind of a BS scam, but like scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, you see all like the small business creators that are not even small business, just people that are pushing these like really cheap shirts and they're getting commission for it. They always use the tagline when it was really hot, like, oh, tariffs are putting us out of business. And those companies, they ship directly to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time
Kicking it.
they're just kicking it.
They're just making money
lying.
hand over fist.
Yeah. Huh.
You know, there's two ways to read the law. One way is to follow it. Another way is to exploit it.
Yeah.
You know, that's
That's the reason they're written so vague.
correct.
Yeah.
Because lawyers leave a lot of room for future litigation. In politics, this ongoing info war conflict over the Epstein files, over the Russiagate issues, I'm going to cover it as we go on down the road here, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is not really about uh, right and wrong and true and false. I don't think I'm ever going to know what the truth is because we're in Spooksville with all this stuff, and it's about narrative, it's about story. So we're going to find out what story prevails over time. Do I believe that there was a conspiracy of very senior people in the Obama administration and the left to discredit Trump and to ruin his presidency or to prevent him from becoming president? Yes, I do believe that. Um, but can I prove it? I don't know. I mean, my belief is not truth. It's just what I believe. And I'm going to read everything. And if there is not trials where there is evidence presented, the whole thing is just a cartoon. If there's trials, that could be cartoonish. We just have a situation now where we the people are recognizing that when we send corrupt, power-hungry degenerates into public life because we the people are too busy to do it ourselves, when we abdicate our power at the local level and allow truly evil people to come through the system, we're going to get bad results. And what do you see? A lot of bad people in positions of power. That's why Steve Bannon is talking about radical transparency. You know, one of the ways to prevent these things from happening in the future is to stop believing in that we have to do it this way. Stop believing in a missile gap. Stop believing in a mine shaft gap. Stop believing in an AI gap. Stop believing in the necessity of manipulating human beings. Just stop. Stop. Instead, educate our people and enhance their well-being. The politics of well-being is what the Professor Penn podcast is all about. But this is going to be a big deal. They have now referred the story to a grand jury. A grand jury will look at the evidence and may, in fact, call for indictments of, for example, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, Clapper, Susan Rice. They actually could be indicted for crime. What crimes? I don't know. We talked about treason a couple podcasts ago. Is it treason? What enemy were they aiding? I mean, these are all things that are very opaque and will only emerge over time. Uh, do I think it would be great to see some of these perpetrators, if they in fact are perpetrators, actually prosecuted and jailed so that there was a penalty for lying? Because right now, my state of Minnesota, for example, my politics here in Minnesota is just filled with liars. And they get away with it because there's no penalty for it. There's not even an electoral penalty. Although I do note that there was an endorsing convention, I think it was 27 I think it was Wright County. Kip Christensen was running to be endorsed to run for Senate to fill the chair of a Senator Anderson who passed away. And, you know, I know Kip and I know his history and I've sat down and talked to him. I don't believe him. And he didn't get it. Another guy got it with a beautiful family and he was backed by other people in that district. Man, that would be the system working. Now, I don't know the guy that got the endorsement. He also could be a bag. I don't know. But he's got a beautiful wife and a beautiful family. And from my perspective, you know, I don't know him. I do know some of these other people that were running. And when we start sorting out this politics here in Minnesota, when the Republican Party starts to endorse people of honesty, you know, just tell the truth. I mean, if you got a problem in your life, hey, I mean, who cares? I don't care if you're divorced. I don't care if you know, dropped out of college or if you smoked dope in the 80s. That's irrelevant to me. What are your policies? And will you honestly pursue service to the citizens of Minnesota? Are you going to listen to your constituents? Are you going to be honest with your constituents about what you will do and what you can do? That's what I care about. We got all this thing now in Minnesota. You're seeing if you're in Minnesota, oh, fraud's everywhere. Fraud, we got feeding our future fraud. We got a housing fraud. We got Medicare fraud. And then Kristen Robbins jumps up and she's, Republican from the Maple Grove area in the House. She wants to be up on front of fighting this fraud. You Republicans voted for these programs that had no oversight and they were cheesecloth. They invited fraud. This was a bipartisan effort to create these programs. And if you're so pissed off about it now, and you're going to say, well, we didn't have political power, so it happened because you don't elect Republicans. You guys are all about why didn't you stand up 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago and say, this program does not have adequate oversight? Why did you sit quietly in your chair on your hands? Why did you do that? It's so easy when President Trump gets in here to be brave, to hide behind him, and talk about making things work in government. Why didn't you do it right when the bill passed? Jim Nash, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you say, look, there's no oversight here. All these people have to do is watch a video and then they can bill Medicaid. Why didn't you get that into the newspaper right then, day one, and say to Republicans, you got to elect Republicans. Look at what's happening. No. Now, ex post facto, after $1 billion has disappeared, now everybody's sitting around going, oh, boy, there's all this fraud. It's all the Democrats. Stop. You're not going to fool me with this. If you're in government, you're there to prevent fraud, not to wring your hands about it after it happens for electoral purposes. Protect the people. That's why I elect you, to protect my interests, not to use the other side to get elected. There's a difference. I just want to take a little time to talk about an event that happened that's going to go into the annals of history without much comment. And that was a border war that broke out between Thailand and Cambodia the 2 weeks before President Trump started these reciprocal tariffs. This is very important to me because I buy product in both countries, and I understand the region because I've been there so many times. Cambodia was originally scheduled to get a 49% reciprocal tariff, Thailand 36%. Those are deal killers, right? And both countries were negotiating, and the Trump administration actually announced a deal with Cambodia where the rate came from 49 to 36. That's a deal killer, 36%, a deal killer. Basically, President Trump was taking Cambodia out of the action. And then all of a sudden, a war broke out. And this is kind of an, implausible. I mean, why would these two countries go to war with each other? What's going on here? Well, immediately, the pundits came out and said it was a border dispute that went back to when the French had French Indochina. And I knew right off the bat that was a BS story because this place has been stable on border for a long time. What's really going on, in my opinion, and I don't have any 8x10 glossies, is that China, which has a tremendous productive investment in Cambodia and in Thailand, saw its investment in Cambodia possibly going to zero, billions down the drain. And then Thailand, which is not yet, because Cambodia, let me just also give you an opinion. Cambodia is like a Chinese province. The largest Chinese military base outside of China is in Cambodia. Cambodia is a very communist country. It's very aligned with China. I mean, you couldn't make it more aligned. It's closer aligned with China than Israel is with the United States. It's China, but a little different. And then Thailand still is an independent country. Cambodia is dependent on China. It's totally in debt. Thailand still has economic legs, economic self-governance. It has its own monarchy, its own style of government. It has a great involvement with China, but it's still Thai. And what does the Chinese want? Well, the Chinese want to dominate Southeast Asia. They want to bring Vietnam under its thumb. Cambodia is already there. Myanmar is already a Chinese protectorate, so to speak. Laos is already a Chinese protectorate, so to speak. It wants to get control. China wants to be in control of Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia. And the United States is fighting with China politically in every form of info war for that control. So that war broke out. That war was about China flexing because it wants control of Southeast Asia. And I want to show you why President Trump talks so often about what's called transshipment. Tanner, there is a map which shows all railroads lead to China. Could you put that up, please, when you find that?
Yeah.
Now, you take a look. Those are the railroads in Southeast Asia. What's been going on for 20 years since the United States started to put on anti-dumping and countervailing punitive taxes on Chinese manufacturing in China, and the Chinese allegedly moved that manufacturing down into Southeast Asia? Well, those rails could carry raw materials down into these Southeast Asian countries, or they could carry finished goods with false manifests. And when they get down into Cambodia or get down into Thailand, the local Chinese-owned workshop could just slap a Made in Thailand label on the box and ship it to the United States, avoiding the anti-dumping and countervailing duties that have been imposed on that Chinese production. So they could still make it in China and ship it down and ship it out. And this is a big challenge for President Trump and the United States government. This is an enforcement issue. But it goes even deeper than this. Look at how these countries are all really just right next to China. And there's Cambodia and Thailand. The Chinese did not want to see Cambodia be at 36 and Thailand at 19. So a war broke out. And President Trump said, we're not negotiating any trade deals until this war stops. And guess what happened? It stopped the next day. And then on the 31st of July, Cambodia, instead of the 36% rate it was going to get, suddenly it was 19, Thailand was 19, and Indonesia was 19. And so this is Chinese, in my opinion, Chinese foreign policy led to this conflict and its resolution, which came out great for China. But this picture also shows something else. There are two competing visions of how to dominate the world, and this goes back over 100 years. We've talked about Mackinder, the Mackinder World Island Theory. The Mackinder World Island Theory is about the control of land. You're looking at a land strategy. And this is just a touch of it. These railroads are very expensive to build. But the Chinese are contemplating building a Panama Canal-like thing through the Isthmus of Thailand. They're building a canal from Cambodia to the sea. They're building a seaport on that western border of Cambodia. And they're going to build a canal that goes to that seaport to try to come off of that railroad spur. You can actually see that little orange line from the Cambodia rail line. Right now, when you ship out of Cambodia, you got to ship up through Vietnam. They don't want to strengthen Vietnam. Vietnam's doing what the Chinese call standing on two boats. Vietnam fought a war with China in 1975. Vietnam is fiercely independent. They defeated the French, they defeated the United States, and the Chinese in a 20-year period. These people are like the Afghanis. They're tough, and they want to self-govern. These people are badass. So the Chinese foreign policy is to try to weaken Vietnam, weaken Thailand, so that they can eventually incorporate these countries into the Chinese geographic strategy called Belt and Road. This is the Mackinder World Island Theory, control the land. Well, there's a competing theory. And that's an American theory. American naval officer Alfred Thayer Mahan believed that sea power determined global supremacy. And that is why the British and the American navies have been so successful in securing the sea routes for international trade. So, what we have here is two competing strategies for world domination. I mean, these people are like Dr. Evil. This is about world domination. Do you dominate it by controlling the seas, or you just dominate it by controlling land? And this is what we're really dealing with right now. Forget about the countries, forget about all the noise. The signal is, will a land based strategy prevail or a sea based strategy prevail in terms of the domination of world trade? And therefore, who gets the money and who has the gold maketh the rules. Well, there's four outcomes here, right? Scenario A, coexistence. The ocean powers maintain dominance over the maritime trade, but this Eurasian system that the Russians and Chinese are working on together also becomes a serious functioning complement. So you get a multipolar logistics and politics that reflect a blending, a coexistence between naval and land power. Here's a second scenario. The land strategy prevails. The land routes become faster, cheaper, more secure. Europeans, they're sick of America. They cozy up with the Russians and the Chinese. And the sea-based Western strategy of the English and the Americans becomes the old system. The future is the inland empire. Scenario C is war. The United States and the United Kingdom start sabotaging, sanctioning, or undermining these land-based projects. Think pipeline explosions. Think the severing of underwater cables and pipelines. Targeted sanctions on Belt and Road participants. This would get really ugly, and we're right on the verge of that right now. And then there's, the best outcome, which is synthesis. The world just wakes up from its who's the baddest presentation, and everybody just accepts that the world now runs on a multipolar system. Sea and land. One happy family, one beautiful world about human well-being and human longevity. Yeah, we can dream. Right now, it's still a naval world today. What it is tomorrow, that's what this fight is about. And that's what this war in Thailand and Cambodia signaled to me, that this ongoing fight over landers. And you say, why is that? Well, because right now, all those products are leaving Asia in those four really critical countries for export: Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia. That's where a lot of production is. When you go on down to Costco and Walmart, you start looking at the boxes, you're going to see made in Thailand. All that product comes by sea to the United States. What China's proposing is moving it by rail and by canal to Europe and bypassing the sea lanes. They want to bypass it. They want to isolate America and take control of the world island, the Mackinder theory. Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? To know that we're in a big battle of philosophies about who's going to control the world. How about the people get involved in politics, and instead of control, we start thinking about, how are we going to live a long time? How are we going to compress our morbidity? How do we make this world safer and a more well-being place for our children? That doesn't happen at the top. These people that are running the deal, we don't even know the names of the people that are running the deal. We just know the names of the people they pay to front for them. These fortunes that are behind the scenes, we don't know who these people are. They don't need publicity because they're kicking it, right? I mean, some people will say they're not even humans. I mean, we need evidence, but the way they approach humanity is not human, because they view me as inventory. And why do I know that? Because I got a number. I'm inventory. I have a stock keeping code. It's called my social security number.
They also refer to us as consumers, not citizens, all the time.
Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
Kind of like saying Abraham Lincoln saved the democracy.
Yeah.
instead of the republic.
Just changing the language a little bit.
Right. Changing how we think about ourselves. You know, that was a great comment, Tanner. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So our healthcare is getting more and more expensive, right? This next year, under the Affordable Care Act, many of us are going to experience a 20% increase in the cost of our insurance. And we've talked about on the podcast that the crudest measure of the success of a healthcare system is longevity. And we by far and away spend the most on healthcare. And our longevity, I don't know, it's in the high 30s amongst the countries of the world. So we really suck in terms of outcome on the crudest possible measure. And you look at our population, and man, we have a very unwell population. We've got a lot of chronic disease, a lot of chronic obesity, and it's coming at an earlier and earlier age. And then our healthcare system jumps in and manages chronic conditions, sometimes for 30 or 40 years. I remember my grandmother, man, she lived to be 91 years old. She had a heart attack when she was 45. And, you know, she was managed, her heart condition and her heart problems were managed for 45 years. She used to go to the doctor every week, you know? And she had a pill dispenser. I mean, you want to talk about a drug addict. My grandma, my God, she's taking 40 pharmaceutical pills a day. I used to look at her and go, what are you doing? It's crazy. But she believed in science. She did. She was born before there was automobiles and before there was jet airplanes and before there was televisions, before there was washing machines, before there was radios. And she believed in science because it delivered so much benefits. I mean, imagine a woman of her generation could buy a washing machine. Teddy, would you buy me a washing machine? I'm tired of using this washing board. Do you even know what a washing board is?
Yeah, I know what a washing board is.
Okay, that's hard work, right?
Yeah.
Right. I can get a GE washing machine. She was proud of her washing machine. I mean, I'm telling you, I know I was there. She bragged about her because she used to wash the clothes by hand.
Yeah.
So she was a believer in science, and I get that. And people died young. She had 13 brothers and sisters. She was the last surviving sibling. She buried all of them, and some of them died in their 20s. So she believed in science and she believed in medicine. And maybe at that time, in the 60s and 70s, maybe it was a different kind of medicine. And I know it was because her doctor, Dr. Hurwitz, used to come over to the house and have dinner. It was a different kind of a deal. I took one of my family members to the doctor yesterday for a problem. And I said, Doctor, what about the literature? She said, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm a physician's assistant. Don't overestimate me. I said, cool. I wasn't even seeing a doctor. So, you know, things have changed. It's a business. It was more of an art. People would have their doctors, and I know if you're younger, you can't relate to this, but people would go to the doctor and there'd be transference. That doctor-patient relationship was very important. You wanted your same doctor. You trusted them. That was health preferring, having a doctor you trusted. Now, you don't see the same person 2 times. You're involved in the technique of medicine, the delivery of medicine. It's evidence-based. It's chemical-based, biochemically based. It's legally steeped. It is herd-centric. What happens with the herd? Not with you as an individual patient. No, you do not forget about that. Your individuality does not matter. You are part of a subject study group. Okay, that's one way of dealing with things. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's one way of dealing with it. Well, let's talk about another one. Fear. Fear and faith. You know, the Bible mentions fear a lot. And we're afraid. I'm afraid, but I'm a lot less afraid than I was 2 years ago or 10 years ago or 30 years ago or 50 years ago. A lot less fear. Because faith and fear can't coexist. And there is this concept of the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins. For example, pride. Now, what is the outcome of the 7 deadly sins? We know the wages of sin are death. That's where we go. When we do the 7 deadly, they call them the 7 deadly sins because when you get hooked up in these sins, it doesn't prefer life, it prefers death.
I wouldn't even say I would say spiritual death. It's not real death because even I mean Jesus died and he was perfect, so we all face death, but spiritual death, if you indulge in these 7 deadly sins, you're spiritually
You're
done.
taking away my theme song
I'm sorry.
because spiritual death precedes physical death. As it said in the Matrix, the body cannot live without the mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's weird how there's all these parallels. It feels so obvious to us, but a lot of people are lost.
Well, I think I'm still lost trying to be found. I'm not going to put myself aside from people because I'm trying to free myself from these sins. Let's go through them. Pride. Pride. The fear of not being made perfect by God. God doesn't love me. I'm prideful. Greed. The fear of emptiness. I'm empty. I have to fill that emptiness with things. Envy. Ooh, envy. That's a tricky one. The fear of being discriminated against by God. God made other people better than me. That's an interesting one. That one can hide. Lust. The fear of not being loved by God, not being loved by anyone. We're going to put that fear, we're going to put lust in its place. What comes from lust? Well, first of all, dissipation. But how about AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, genital warts, gluttony, the fear of having feelings? Because when we overeat, can't feel anything. The fear of not dealing with all the rest of these things. Just overeat. And then, of course, the people that own the food companies know about this fear, so they addict us to the foods that make us gluttonous. Not nice of you. If God is watching, you got a lot of splaining to do. Wrath, something I'm expert in. It's the fear of vulnerability. It's the fear that God will not protect me, will not send his angels to lift me up, lest I dash my foot upon a rock, as it says in Psalm 91. Sloth, laziness, the fear of failing to live up to what God is encouraging us to do. And when we're dominated by fear and we get caught up in these sins, I'm Tanner, I'm going to take a different position with you here. It's not spiritual death. It's death. Because if you're gluttonous and you're obese, all the chronic conditions come from obesity, right? Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
Maybe all of them. I don't know. Wrath. Hey, baby, if you're wrathful, you could find somebody more wrathful than you, and that'll be the end right there. Or you could have a heart attack when you get pissed off. I can get so mad that my hands will tingle for days because I screw my blood pressure up so bad. Because when you get mad, you get ready to fight, and your blood vessels constrict so you don't bleed out if you get wounded. It's not good for the well-being. It's anti-well-being. Lust, I cover. I mean, all of these deadly sins, they call them deadly because they are. And underneath all of them is fear. Fear. And the Bible talks. Of course, they don't want you to read the Bible because, my God, you might find some truth in there. That might set you free of those sins. And if you were set free of those sins, just as Tanner said, we're going to die. But with long life, will God satisfy us and show us his salvation? Hey, when you're satisfied, it's okay to let go. It's when you're not satisfied, it's a big. So I want to read a couple of these biblical things about fear, biblical quotes about fear, because so much of our politics and so much of our human interaction is dominated by fear. And I want to set myself free of that box. And woe unto you that use fear to manipulate the people. Woe unto you. Look at our politics. It's all fear-based. You're going to lose your Medicaid. Millions of Americans are going to die. I mean, these people specialize in taking that hidden fear and manipulating us. And we got to set ourselves free of that. And how we set ourselves free of that is to understand how fear works with the deadly sins and understand the blessing that we have in that ancient text, some of which might not be like some of the other. I mean, I'm not saying every line in the Bible is as good. The QC is not necessarily the same on every paragraph, but some of these ideas are so profound. Let me just share a few with you. From Proverbs, the fear of man lays a snare. That would be the 7 deadly sins. I'll read it again. The fear of man lays a snare, a trap. But whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. Whoever has faith is safe. Man, I'm buzzing all over my body from this. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Let go and let God. There's a concept all of us deserve to try at least for as long as it takes to understand that with long life, we will be satisfied and God will show us salvation. Isaiah, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. For I am the Lord, your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Now, I know there's people listening that don't believe this, but did you try it? Did you really take the time to study the system and realize it's a system? It's not like, oh, I read it and it works. You got to work at it. You got to master it. Like, okay, these people in they're at a martial arts school. Okay, they get their black belt. Good for you. Doesn't mean you can defend yourself. You just passed the test. You've now entered the next level of training. Are you willing to train in these ideas until they pervade your consciousness? Give meaning to your life, to give meaning to our community's life, to give meaning to our country's life, so that we don't have to live in fear, but we can live in well-being, because faith and well-being are related. Psalms 34. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Oh, that's a beautiful one. I sought the Lord. I did the training. I walked the walk, and God answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. If you do the work, I'm just testifying to you. It's hearsay. When I tell you it works, it's hearsay. It only works for you in real if you do the work. You got to do the work. And our country's given that up and replaced it with fast food. Good trade there, guys. Though an army may besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. But now, this is what the Lord says. He who created you, Jacob, he who formed you, Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. I believe that all of us can find that. I believe it's there for everyone. That's my belief. You who fear him, trust in the Lord. He is their help and shield. So, what I'm trying to bring forth here is we live in a fear-based economy, fear-based politics, and a fear-based religion. The Bible, that ancient text, gives us a mechanism, a training mechanism to put fear aside and put faith in its place. When we have faith in its place, when we find the purpose of living, that is the greatest medicine on this planet. Now, our scientists don't know it today, but they may know it tomorrow. I had a doctor who told me that my intense connection with my life and my search for meaning and the purpose I felt was the greatest medicine. So some doctors do know this. Some doctors know it, but not enough of them. And I'm not saying that medicine is wrong or stop taking your medicine or don't go to the doctor. I'm not saying that. I'm saying faith is a powerful healer in a medicine, and there is a training methodology that you can find. And if you're a non-believer or a leftist and you're watching me, just take the New Testament and read Mark and Matthew, just those two books, which you can read them in 3 hours probably. Try reading them 100 times. Just read them 100 times. Put 300 hours into reading Mark and Matthew. Read it over and over and read it trying to understand it as an instructional manual for well-being. And if you read it 100 times and really put your time into it, you will discover the system of well-being that's inherent in those wonderful books. And when you incorporate that into your daily living, guess what? Your health and well-being will improve. Your use of the medical system will decline. And if all citizens of the United States did this, the amount of money we're spending on healthcare would be slashed by 50% very quickly. And then we would have a self-governing, self-sufficient, and independent country where the citizens were well and our budget was manageable. So let us not look to government to solve our problems because, as Mohammed made me say, the most dangerous words there, the most dangerous words in the most dangerous phrase in English language is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. That's not the way things work. We don't want that. We're going to help ourselves. We're going to be Republicans. We're going to self-govern. We're going to be self-regulating. We are going to be free. And on that note, it's great to be back with you. I've had a couple interviews. It's been a while since I've had a chance to do this free form with you. Really happy you're here. Please repost the links. Thank you for watching on Royce's X. We're over on YouTube. You can find the Professor Penn channel over there where you could participate in the live chat if you so desired. But please, if you're on X with Royce or on X with David Penn, Professor Penn, please repost the links into your social X channel. Please, everybody, repost the links. Hit the like button. We forgot about TireGet once again. Please, if you need tires, please. This is one of the ways we're funding Free People Radio. It's the best deal on tires in America. I've been in the tire business since 1979. I built it that way. I know it's awesome. So please, call in if you need some help. I'd be happy to meet you. Most of the patriots that call in and want to buy tires, if I'm in the office, I will talk to them myself because we're a community. We're a political action community. Go to the precinct strategy. Figure out how to get involved in your local party unit. We got a republic to save. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everybody.